And with this topic kind of brings something that you want to talk about, which is the black card, because it's certain things as black folks we feel that you should be having have some type of experience of watching, seeing, and doing. And so that a lot of times, if that's not the case, they said you ain't black and we're gonna revoke your black card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that a lot, mostly as pertains to my movie watching experiences. But people revoke black cards for all types of reasons. Whenever somebody feel like you're not meeting their standard of blackness, all of a sudden there's a proverbial black card and it's being removed. So I need to know, like, what are your standards for somebody to hold on to their black card? Like, what's your standard of blackness that you like to see in your fellow sisters and brothers?
That is a good question. I never thought of that before. Let's see. You got to know how to play spades.
Okay. What about if you renege for here and there? Is that like?
No, I mean that broke up many black families. If you renege, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? If you're sitting on that table, right, you better know what the heck you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
So what about if you can't count books? Is that the same as reneging, or is that forgivable?
That's a staple of spades. You gotta know how to count the books.
Okay. All right.
That's a staple. Let's see, spades. What else? Certain movies to be watched. That's one of them. Or even eating certain foods. Like, people revoke my black card because I don't eat greens.
What do you have against greens?
That is not good for me. I don't like them. It is slimy and I just don't like them. I know people, marinate them in ham hocks, turkey legs, all this other stuff, but it has never been something I like. Hell, I didn't start eating hot sauce until 5 years ago. And see, that's be something right there that would be like, oh, we're going to revoke your black card. I didn't eat hot sauce for till 5 years ago.
Dang, even Beyonce got hot sauce in her bag, swag. Like, you messing up now. Hold on.
But that is a good question you pose because, in our community, it's kind of like you have to uphold a certain amount of blackness, but what is black?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I get it a lot that either I never had a black card. I get that one, which I feel is very harsh. Okay. Not only is it that I'm getting it revoked, but now I gotta never have even had one. Like, I ain't never even been black. All because I ain't never seen a few movies. I mean, give me a break. I'm like you. I grew up on the nasty north side. So it's not like
north.
Yeah. So, I was in the middle of the hood. Okay. And that's all I knew. But not really. So in kindergarten, I got on a yellow bus and rode out to Clayton. And I went to Clayton from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. So my experience was that of a Clayton person. And then I got on the bus and I went, home to the north side. And I wasn't out in these streets running back and forth. I had my little rollerblades with my best friend across the street. Shout out to Andrea. And we would rollerblade up and down one block. We wasn't going around the corner. We ride our bikes maybe 2 blocks. But once you get to Grand, turn your ass around and don't go past Pasco. Okay. So I don't know. That was our lives. And we both, we were both DSEG kids. So she was living a Melville life and I was living a Clayton life. And that is what it is. And I guess they wasn't watching Coming to America in Clayton. I don't know.
I mean, Coming to America is a classic. That is not a black card. That's an everybody card because everybody knows that movie. So Coming to America, that superseded everything. I think even Chinese people in China know about Coming to America.
You're probably right, because I was watching Channel 2 News and Tim, whatever his name is, white man, he was making all the references to McDowell's
Mhm.
and all. I was like, is his wife black? Like, no, they both white. So okay, I guess this is a really popular movie. I had no idea.
And that's crazy because once we start talking about the topic even more, it made me think a little bit because, like I said, I grew up in the military life, and so military is pretty a mixture of a melting pot of everything. You'll see Puerto Ricans, Chinese, Filipinos, everything, just because of different cultures. And so, me and you, we went to University of Central Missouri, Go Mules. But when I first got there, and I was telling people where I went to school at, they was like, "Where? Who? With all the white folk?" They were like, nah, you ain't black. You ain't from St. Louis. You ain't from this. You ain't from that. And so they kind of looked at me different because they thought I was kind of like what they call an Oreo, black on the outside, white on the inside. And even though I had many of black experiences, just because I wasn't from a certain place, they deemed me as white. And so, a lot of times, especially our St. Louis people that I came across with on campus, they think that just because you're from a certain location mean that you are. And I be telling people, like, just because you're from St. Louis don't mean you can't get your ass. You know what I'm saying? And so just kind of like those type of
okay.
And so just those type of experiences is like, that's why I was asking, what is black? And then for viewers out there, I want you to ask yourself, what is black? Because even with politics, if you're not Democrat, people say you're not black.
Yeah, Joe Biden said that.
he did say
he
that.
Said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black.
He did say that. He did say.
Yeah, they used to call me when I worked at the prison. I worked there for a year before I came back to St. Louis to work. But when I worked at the prison, they used to call me a graham cracker. Do you know what a graham cracker is?
I know this is something that you put some s'mores on, but what's the other definition?
A graham cracker is a brown cracker. They was calling me a graham cracker. And I thought when one of them first called me, he was like, "You a graham cracker." And I was like, "What does that mean?" I wasn't sure. Maybe it was a compliment. I enjoy graham crackers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm wondering if this is low-key sexual harassment. Like, oh, you trying to say I'm tasty? Like, what is this? He said, you're a brown cracker. I was like, oh, damn.
Wow. That's the first time I ever heard that term, graham cracker. Yeah, I never heard of that one.
Yeah. Shout out to level 4 institution out in Potosi.
What up, level 4? Wow, that's Potosi. That's a little ways out, man. Yeah, you had a nice little drive.
Yes, 1 hour and 20 minutes each way. That's how I ended up only being there for a year. And they really called me a graham cracker when they found out I was leaving. They felt very betrayed because I was, the only black woman around there, and I was rolling out. And they was like, "We knew you wasn't real." And they gave it to me. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta go."
So, what's your experiences of of history? People saying that you're not black enough. How you think that affected you?
Oh, that's a deep question. Deep because it wasn't just people who were not close to me who would say that to me. I had been hearing that since I was 5 years old. I'm gonna do like Meghan Markle and Harry. I ain't gonna tell you which family member said it, but I'm gonna tell you a family member said it, and used to go in on me and call me Whitey all the time. And it's funny because it got to a point where I started to code switch. So I used to speak one way all the time when I was younger, and it was correct English as I learned it. But I would be called Whitey every time I enunciated. So then I started, code switching. When I'm at school, I'm gonna talk this way. When I'm at home, I'm gonna talk this way. And it took years of me being able to develop my own personality and stand in the truth of who I am to now I communicate the way I communicate no matter who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a mixture of both. I still enunciate, but I still have, whatever. I'm me.
And for the people that don't know what code switching is, us in the Black community, we have to speak in two type of tones. So how me and her talking right now, that's our Black voice. But then when we pick up the phone and we talk to the bill collector, like, hello? Yeah, this is Mr. Godfrey. Hey, how's it going there? So we have to learn two different tones of voice. And so that's what we learn from our parents and stuff. This is kind of how to adapt.
Yeah. And it's kind of what you have to do to make it in mainstream corporate America until you get to a place where you feel like you've gotten comfortable enough with yourself and comfortable enough with what the consequences may be if you don't code switch, before you can kind of just stand in your own truth and just be who you are. And that's a whole nother conversation as far as like racial identity development and the different stages that we go through as Black people, and white people have racial identity development as well. Every race, culture of people, there are stages that you go through as you learn who you are for yourself, as well as who you are to other people in society. So, you know, that was a long way of answering your question of, you know, how did it affect me? The shit fucked me up, but I'm better now. Okay? Don't do that to your friends. Don't do that to your family. Let people be who they are. Okay, that's the word from Dr. Jen. Okay.
Oh man, I think I had a different type of experience because I had to live in two different. Well, it's probably similar because where I went to school at, it was a lot of racism because I went to school out in the country, like where there's dirt roads and everything like that. And so it was even people where the white boy used to call you the N-word, like thinking that they can use it and stuff like that. And some of the Black dudes at my school, they was cool with it. And I'm like, you gonna let him call you that? He don't mean nothing to buy it. He don't mean nothing to buy it. Man, I got many of fights and got many of troubles because of that. But then when I go back home to Cincinnati and stuff like that, oh, you talk too proper, you this, you that, you acting white and all this other stuff. And so I think that when I went back to Cincinnati or were around my family, I used to overcompensate a lot just because I wanted to be like, look, I'm the black. God, look at me. But then as you said, like when you get older, you start getting comfortable in your own skin. And so it's kind of like you are who you are. But then I switched it up just a little bit when I started getting into corporate America. As you said, we wanted to talk into that white voice. And so my white voice is down packed. I had that thing down to the damn T. Like you wouldn't even know. But then I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Because when I started getting into counseling, and I was like, I'm sitting here talking to my clients like that. It's not who I am. I'm telling them to be who they are, and I'm not being who I am. Yeah. And so I changed all that up, and I said, well, let's throw it out there. Now, every once in a blue moon, it comes out naturally, especially if you're talking to somebody on the phone, like trying to get something handled, you know, because sometimes when they're dealing with us Black folks, they don't want to act accordingly. But yeah, I definitely do see that a lot. Even with some of the teenagers I counsel around, they have struggles with that because their families live in the county, and you know the family from the city, and they kind of get those kind of things going on.
Mm-hmm. And you know, code switching is it's you know the tone and the language that you use, but it's also your demeanor, the way you dress, the way you know present yourself, and you know a lot of times when you get into a corporate situation, you feel like you can't wear certain things not as far as like, you know, sexualizing yourself or whatever.
You mean like your hair and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, like that the whole thing with the hair, that's an issue. And then I remember the last year that I was working in a clinic, it was Juneteenth. And so I wore my Juneteenth t-shirt, very, very proud of it. And I felt really good about it. But I had never done that before. And I only felt comfortable doing that because I knew I was about to be done working there in July. I was like, what y'all gonna do? Fire me? I already put my time in, you know, whatever. But my coworker was like, I should have worn my shirt. I knew it. I wanted to wear my shirt and I didn't. It's in the car right now. And that is the true struggle. Like, they were acknowledging Juneteenth at our job. They gave us free lunch for Juneteenth, but still there's a pressure to assimilate to white expectations. And she couldn't wear her shirt. And I only wore mine because I had already put in my notice. That's the pressure you feel as a Black person out here. You want to be authentic, but you're afraid of the consequences.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think with our generation, especially, I see it more and more of us are, I wish I had hair to wear locks, because if I had hair, I sure would be having the locks. It's getting. But I see a lot of, I know even in college when I graduated, people's like, well, I got to cut off my locks because it's not corporate and stuff like that. And so I've seen a lot of people embrace that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, agreed.
I remember when I was working at Valley Hope, and I had my good professional voice and everything. We used to have staffing in the morning. And so this one new program director, I forgot his name, but whoever watching it, just shoot me an inbox or something about his name. But it was somebody, it was like one of the clients there, a white boy used the N-word towards somebody. And so the program director took it upon himself. He wanted to reenact it. And so he said it too in the staffing. And me and this dude, Corey, we looking like, I'm looking at him to make sure I heard the same thing he heard. And so that little professional voice just kind of went out the door. I'm like,
okay,
what the hell you just say? And me and this dude just went off. And I was like, man, like, as much as you try to assimilate and do stuff like that, they don't care. And that's what I realized is like, they do not care. So you might as well be you.
Yeah. I walked out of many a meeting at the prison because they were saying, microaggressions, sometimes macroaggressions, sometimes just blatantly racist stuff. And I got tired of always being the one to be like, that was racist, or like, do you realize what I just started walking out them mugs like, oh, okay. But when you see the back of my head, you done said something racist. It's a mess.
A hot mess. And so that's why I'm glad for us, we working for ourselves, because we ain't got to deal with no shit like that. Unless we kind of have a client that comes in that probably has some racist undertones or something like that. But I hope they don't choose a Black counselor and be racist.
Well, I'm actually dealing with that right now. But, that's another story for another time. I don't know, and that's another thing. There are some psychological diagnoses that involve being able to identify whether or not a person is delusional or whether or not their paranoia is grounded in reality, right? And so in this situation that I'm dealing with, I have to ask myself, am I picking up on true racial undertones? Or is this a combination of my experiences as a Black woman that's deciding that this woman who can't get right when she talks to me is racist versus she just don't know how to talk to people? So, that's a reality that I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to like work through that myself. But
it's a Caucasian lady, for real?
Yes.
Yes.
The struggle is, we take an oath to do no harm, and she's not my identified patient, it's her children. So her children have done nothing but be respectful, and, and I'm working with them to deal with a lot of different things. But on the other hand, their mama is hella disrespectful in the way that she approaches me. And she wasn't always like that. It's when I did something that she didn't. It's when I did something that she didn't like. She started acting a fool. And now I'm like, well, I keep telling her, listen, I'm not the only psychologist in town, okay? Treatment is completely voluntary. If you feel like this is inadequate, please let me know. I will identify resources and give you referrals. But she won't leave.
Dang. And you say you get a referral and she still won't leave.
I think it's because of the kids, which I understand. That's my dilemma as well, because, you know, the kids are attached to me. We have a good rapport, and I can't just cut them off. And if she's a decent mother, which I hope she is, she probably feels the same way. Like she's just taking it for the team because of her children.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad I haven't gotten to that situation yet in the private practice world, because shoot, I probably act kind of different. But you're right. We have to adhere to these code of ethics, and so you handle it in the most professional manner you could have. That's good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ain't no problem. Well, that will conclude the podcast for today. Be sure to tune in every week as we record this podcast. Click the subscribe button, share, promote Black Podcasts, and we will see y'all next time.